I'm Ted Meyer in Los Angeles, California, and I am with
Todd O'Donnell, and I am from Tewksbury, Massachusetts.
Thank you so much for speaking with me. You have kind of an amazing story. So before we get into some of my questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened to you?
Well, we're from a wrestling family, and my two boys wrestled, Timmy and TJ. And TJ is a police officer, and he wrestles in the police Olympics. You know, it's high competition, the best of the in the world of the world police and fire. And we went down to watch my son compete. We went through the competition, and it was a gold medal match. I don't remember it. I came home, went to bed. We drove home about 1 o'clock in the morning and got up about 6. And I went to the bathroom and must have had some sort of vasovagal episode. And I went to my bureau and hit my head on my bureau. And then I went down like a boxer's punch and hit my head on the rail of the bed. And I was dead. And my wife got up 10 minutes later for work. And she came in and saw me. And she asked, am I all right? And there was no response. So she came over and she did CPR. And finally, I rolled over in a fetal position. And she knew that wasn't good, and called 911. And they performed. There was a doctor leaving, a brain surgeon, and he came back and performed a craniotomy. That's when they open your head up and take parts out and clean it out, and then sewed it back up. And I was in a coma for 9 days. It was so severe that when they were doing the craniotomy, my son Timmy said we might as well capture the last days of Dad's life. So he started the camera running, and I had everything in the world plugged into me. And I was still in a coma. And the day they were supposed to pull the plug is the day I woke up. I had dreams after that I was in a bed, and I thought it was a bed, but it must have been a cloud. And there were thousands of people on the clouds, and they came around. And if you got the thumbs up, you went to heaven. If you got the thumbs down, you went back to earth. So I figured I was back to earth because I had some more living to do. Mm-hmm. And during this period of time, my cognitive thinking was not the best. And I figure that I had some sort of an inspiration, because when they were doing the craniotomy, what they do is they drill holes in your head, and you're not asleep. You're sedated, but you're not asleep. And I heard my father, who died 30 years prior, say that you're going to be okay. So I'm taking that as something that was sent from above. I had to be lifted by a Hoyer lift, and I had 5 different therapies a day. Slowly but surely, it brought my mind, my brain, my dexterity, and different parts of my body back to life. And all during this time, my son filmed everything.
You know, this is the thing about being an artist. You look at almost any situation and think, what can I do with this? And it's amazing that he had the wherewithal to think this is worth documenting.
I kind of wonder about that too, because I don't think I would have had the strength, no matter what, to do this. And I admire him and the love of the family. Without my wife, Gail, and all the members of my family sort of, cheering me in my corner. Everybody says you went through so much. Well, I was brain injured. I didn't know what was going on.
I watched this film, which is pretty remarkable because your son followed you for, as far as I can tell, over 6 years. You lost all these memories, and you sort of seem okay with it. Like, I'm moving forward. Whereas your family, and your son especially, it seems harder for them that you don't remember teaching them to swim in the pool or the house you lived in or some of the memories. Whereas it doesn't seem to bother you as much. Your memories seem more important to them than they do to you.
Well, I think that's a pretty good point, because even when my mind got better, 30% of my mind is somebody else. I don't know who it is. When I first looked in the mirror, I did not recognize myself. I pictured myself, I think I lived 35 or so years ago, and I remember everything. But during the last chapter of my life, they tell you that when you come back from a brain injury, all of your likes and what you used to do, you probably won't be excited about it anymore. I played golf for 50 years, and I never really even knew I played when I first came back. And my son Russell's, Timmy, was a high school champ, and went to Springfield College, where he was captain of the team, had a great career. And then TJ, at that World Police and Fire Games, won the gold medal. And I don't remember that. And it's sort of just different, where if I see something and I recognize it, sometime I think it's for the first time. And although I know my kids and my grandkids, a lot of the feelings inside, they aren't foreign, but they're probably not what they should be because of the brain injury. But I've learned in my state that people have to find a different way to get to the same result.
It's amazing watching your transformation. And I love the scene in the film where you're playing golf. Did you still have that muscle memory? Did your body sort of know what to do, even though maybe you didn't know what to do?
It wasn't that. My son was filming, and we went to the golf course, because obviously I had played for so many years. And he said, "Do you remember it?" He said, "Not really." He said, "Well, let's take a walk out on the course, maybe smelling the grass, walking." So we got out to a point, and I turned around and I looked and I said, "Watch out." And he says, "For what?" And I says, "Well, golf balls are going to come this way." And he looked, he says, "How do you know?" And I said, "Well, this is where I used to stand when I was 11 as a caddy. And that's what you did." And so as we continued to walk on, I remembered some other things of a long time ago. And I got a golf club in my hand when my dexterity and other things came back. And as you pointed out, muscle memory must have kicked in. I can't, my right side was devastated by this, and I have no control. I used to, I used to carry a ball 300 yards in the air, and now I was hitting it 150 yards. And if I hit it, and it was very different feeling, but I've progressed, and now I can get it to 200, but probably nothing more than that. Everybody says it's age, but I don't believe that, because I still think I'm in my 40s. That's why when I look at myself, I don't know who sometime I'm looking at.
You've lost about 20 years of memories, right? So you're
Probably in 20 or more that I've lost, but they come back in pieces. Like I'll look at, they took me to the house we used to live in Hudson, New Hampshire, and I don't remember the room I fell. I didn't sort of remember the rooms inside, but I looked outside and I remember the pool, and I remember I had a garden and things like that. And then slowly but surely things started to click in. But the room where I had the fall, I still don't really remember that.
It's interesting because I know I have certain memories of being a kid, but they're predicated on the fact that my dad had a Kodak camera and he would carry it around. and there's pictures. So I have one or two memories of being in the hospital as a kid or being at the New York World's Fair. But I don't know if I have those actual memories or it's just because there's those old black and white photos of them. And so even because I've just been thinking about memory so much since I watched that film, and how much do these things really matter? You're moving forward, you're building a new life, new relationships. So in a way, every day with your kids or your wife, it's sort of like a new adventure.
Yeah, it is a new adventure.
Do you have any advice for people after, whether it's a brain injury or any other injury, of sort of putting their life back together?
Well, after I was better, and I went home, and that was traumatic because I was in a safety net at the hospital. I really didn't want to go home, because I loved and was all around all those people. And I felt that if I was taken home by these people, even though my family, I didn't feel like I'd be too safe. But after a few months and everything, I got involved because they did not have at Spalding any forms of communication between the residents and the doctors and everything and the people who were brain injured. So we started, and I chaired a brain injured committee for 4 years. And we'd have my daughter and myself, and we'd have maybe 15 patients each time we went. We went once a month, and they'd come in the wheelchairs and the caregivers, and you look at the patients, and I could always tell whether they were coming back or not. You'd look at them straight in the eye, and if their eyes were fixated and not moving around the room, you knew that they'd have a difficult time. But a lot of the people who were brain injured were fine. Others cried, this emotional things you go through, but the caregivers and the family were devastated because, as I say, one day you were normal, the next day you weren't. And so slowly but surely, everybody told their story. And after telling each story, some people came forward with their story, others were sort of reluctant. And I said, that's okay. We're all there. Basically, it's going to take, in your mind, a lifetime to get back. But in reality, it's going to take probably 3-4 years. And if slowly but surely things will start to come back. And you have to work all of the methods. You have to work your mind. You have to work your dexterity. I went to the gym a lot. I walked a lot, and I've gotten back what I'm going to get. I mean, it's almost 11 years, and I'm comfortable with where I'm at. Everything is not perfect, but I'm happy in my element. I do certain things. I have a routine. In brain injury, you always have a routine because they tell you if you fall, you're never getting up again.
Any thoughts for family members of people? Like, because the people around you, this is not just something you dealt with, everybody dealt with it.
Have patience, and as long as tomorrow or today is better than yesterday, it won't be as good as tomorrow, you're doing fine. And I think it's important to document each day, in the beginning, maybe for the first year or two, to know how far you've come. And you won't know it because you're just going through the process, but your family that knew you will. Our family has always had the motto, no quit. I always told the kids during their sports in school, no matter how far you're down or this and that, you never quit. You always fight to the end. And if you take that motto in life, then it doesn't matter what you're up against, you keep trying to move forward.
Well, that's the perfect place to end. I think it's good advice for everybody. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you
And
very much.
thank you for letting us, follow. You gave up a lot of privacy to let us follow you for 6 years. And I think
Yeah, but Ted, I don't feel like I have. I feel like it is my position in my life to do this. Now, it's been 11 years. I'm 71. I'm probably going to slow down a little bit. But you know what? It's all in the process of aging. and I want to live as long as I can without being a burden.
More good advice for everybody.
Okay, Ted.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you for doing this, and I hope it helps everybody.